Hi there, and welcome to Jill's Quest for Riches. Now, in today's episode, we're going to dig into how to rent out your own garage box. The agenda for today: first, we'll discuss location, then publication channels, the trends in this market that you should be familiar with, timing and how it impacts your investment, admin and legal, not so sexy, but quite important that you nail it, the costs, the income, of course, the conclusion of the two, the return, is this a good investment or not? Key learnings: what did I learn? What would I do differently in the future? And more importantly, what should you pay attention to when you want to rent out your garage box? I'm ready to dig into it, but maybe one more thing to discuss. This is my first YouTube video, so definitely give me your feedback, positive or negative, much appreciated, in the comments down below. And don't forget to like and subscribe, it helps me to get this YouTube channel off the ground. So if you're ready, let's dig into it. Hi there, so for a quick tour of my garage box, the one I bought, the first thing you'll notice is the difference in height with the neighboring garage boxes. So that's one thing I didn't pay attention to when I bought it, but it's not unimportant. Then something else I want to show you, and let's get into the garage now, is the lights. So here you have one light on this side, one light on the other side, with a sensor over here. Yeah. So I've seen these lights work once, and when I bought the place, and then after that never again. So I have to look into how to fix this. But yeah, it's a nice luxury if you have automatic lights popping on at night when you want to park your car. Something else important is it's an automatic garage door, or how do you say it, garage gate. So you have a remote control and it opens up. That's quite easy as well. One more thing that I only realized when it was already too late is I thought, yeah, one garage box here in this neighborhood goes 25k, maybe 30. So I figured, yeah, a double garage box would be maybe 50k. So I paid 55k actually for this one. But it's quite important to realize that this garage box with the size of for two cars is not necessarily the same as two individual garage boxes. So if you have two individual garage boxes, it's way easier to rent them out or to sell them individually. Here I'm basically looking for either one renter who's okay to rent the garage for two of his cars or for a car plus extra storage room. Or I have to find two different renters, but then I cannot ask the same rent as a single garage box, because each renter basically has to share their space with one other renter. So that's not ideal either. This is the entrance to the garage box, or the area where you have the garage boxes. So here we have a street leading to quite some main roads in Brussels, as you can hear. So this is the, let's say, courtyard where you have all the garage boxes. Mine is just over here, and there you have the entrance, let's say the tunnel through which you actually enter to the courtyard, and it gives out to the street. An important thing to notice here is that you have a lot of buildings. So these are houses. I'm standing in an apartment block. There you have some more apartment blocks. They all give to this courtyard, and then over there you have a office building of the European Commission. I think it's the Director General of Energy. So all day around, and even in the evening and at night, there's actually social control, which is not unimportant for a place where you leave your car or your garage boxes. In terms of location, I already said the European Director General of Energy, but then over there, the glass building in the middle of the screen now, that's actually the main building of the European Commission. So here all around this neighborhood there's quite some buildings from the European Commission, which is of course quite interesting, because these people, well, they earn a lot of money. In terms of location, so as I mentioned, this is a neighborhood that has a lot of expats. This is a double-edged sword, of course. The positive thing is these people are more wealthy. They have an expat premium on top of their regular salary. But on the other hand, they very often don't have a car. They might have a car, but not in Brussels. This is also a very safe neighborhood, maybe because of these European institutions. There's a lot of police surveillance, there's a lot of private surveillance, and we have a military academy about 500 meters away from here. Furthermore, it's quite accessible to get from here to the city center or from other parts within Brussels. And in terms of accessibility, it's also very accessible from outside of Brussels. So there's two main tunnels starting from the road here in front of the building that bring you right away to the ring around Brussels, from where you can go anywhere in Flanders or the Walloons. So accessibility is really, really strong here, and that turned out also to be a key differentiator towards the people that in the end rented my garage. So it's two guys who are selling and buying cars. They already have garages at the other side of Brussels, but they were particularly interested in this location because of its accessibility. In terms of publication, I used 3 different platforms to advertise for my GaragePod. The first one was the main big real estate website in Belgium. It is called Immoweb, and there I paid 40 euros to have my listing publicly available for a period of 4 weeks. Today we're 1 week, 1.5 weeks into that period, and I had 4 inquiries, of which I think 2 are legit inquiries. The second platform that I tried out was also a real estate website called Realo, which was completely free. I did not have any inquiries on this website, but to be fair, I put a way higher price on this platform, and I actually listed my GaragePod already months before listing it on Immoweb website. Why is that? Back then I didn't want to hire it out yet, but I figured if anybody wants to pay this price, I'll make do, and I'll make arrangements to make it possible to rent it out earlier, which didn't happen in the end. And then the third platform that I tried out was Facebook Marketplace, and this is also where I found the actual person that signed the contract yesterday. Now, the main advantages of the Facebook Marketplace is, one, it's integrated with your Messenger app, so you can easily follow up with people who are interested and arrange a meeting or answer some questions. It's very easy. You don't have to go into your mailbox or anything. And you have access to a very, very broad range of people. Now, that's immediately also the disadvantage. You will have people from different social classes with different levels of, let's say, linguistic skills, and also in different gradients of politeness. So that's definitely something you'll have to take with it. Furthermore, in terms of advertising for your spot, I want to stress the fact that you want to have a full description. Here in Belgium, we also have 3 main languages, so I provided my description in 3 main languages: the measurements, the extra stuff like the remote control garage door, the electricity that is provided, the automatic lighting, all of that I provide in the description, because I don't want to lose too much time with answering this type of questions afterwards. Furthermore, I also provide pictures to support this description, to give a feeling to what they're into, and of course I want my pictures to look better than all the other GaragePods that are also on these platforms. I even put in a picture of the remote control just to give a visual cue. Look, this door, this gate is remote controlled, which is a big advantage compared to most of the other GaragePods on there. There are 2 trends in the market that I want to discuss with you when I'm talking here about renting out cars in the city, because that's the situation in which I am. The first trend is that there are less and less cars. From one end, you have the city of Brussels that is trying to get rid of cars outside of the city center. I think this is something that happens a lot in multiple other cities throughout Europe and the world. And on the other side, you have a generational shift. Previous generations would opt in for cars more easily, whilst my generation and the coming generations will more easily consider public transport or bike, especially when you live and work in the city. This trend is on itself actually a good trend, especially when you look at it from an ecological point of view, but of course it's a bad trend when you're trying to rent out your place to people who have cars. A second trend, also working in my disadvantage, is the fact that there's more and more home working and remote working, which will in turn result to less need to have a car or to come with the car somewhere in Brussels. So those 2 trends are definitely working against me. Now, we are still talking about city center real estate, so I'm not too afraid for big drops in the intrinsic value of the property that I bought. So in terms of timing, there's one big catch here, and that it's that we're currently in the COVID crisis, so this is really not the right time to be renting out a garage. A lot of people work from home, very few people really need a garage or a car in these times. But that aside, I think in regular times, which I hope will come back, you have to look at when do people need a garage, and that's usually when they have their car. You can obtain a car in multiple ways. I think the most frequent ones are either when you buy one yourself directly, and there I have no idea when throughout the year that would happen more often or less. I would guess around the periods where you have special sales. And then another way in which you can obtain a car is when you sign your contract, or at the yearly evaluation when you get higher in the ranks within your company. Now, this signing of contracts is quite coinciding with the academic year, of course. In Belgium, the academic year ends somewhere in June, July. So either that's a good point, or when you have people who still want to take their summer holidays, either for vacation or to finish off some re-examination, and then start working in September or October. So I think those two intervals are the most probable to get some extra demand on the market for your garage spot. In terms of admin and legal, I would first of all recommend you to look for a template from which you can start for your contract. You can probably find some templates for free. I myself used wonder.legal. I'll put a link in the description below. They have different types of legal templates for different countries as well. And it is a paying website. So for my template, I paid 30 euros, but I'm definitely getting back to this website if I need other templates in the future. I'm really happy about the service. Nonetheless, once you have your template filled in with all the details that you can get, I would still try to reach out to anybody in your network, family, friends, colleagues that either has a legal background or has experience with renting out property. Why is that? They might still know some nuances, some details that you might not know yet that could prevent you from a lot of problems in the future. But I would go to these people when you already have a template filled in, so they can put their efforts into where they can add the most value, and that is the small nuances, the small details. And then lastly, in terms of admin and legal stuff, I would recommend to put a lot of work in the inventory that you make at the first day of the contract. So inventory in French, état des lieux, plaatsbeschrijving in Dutch. Why is that? Well, you want pictures and descriptions to be as complete as possible for two main reasons. First of all, this is what you're going to be needing as proof when you need to claim money from the deposit at the end of the contract. It might look like a long way in the future, but one day the renter will leave and there might be some damages, and then this is a document that you will need to fall back on. On the other side, it's also a very good way to settle any potential disagreements between you and the renter. So you might have a different memory of how things were when you handed over the keys, and it might not even be with bad intentions, just your brain playing tricks on you. And then the most elegant way to get out of this type of disagreements is, of course, to get back to this description, this inventory, and just look at the pictures, look at the full description, and go from the facts. So I acquired the garage box for 55,000 euros. Then on top of that, I needed to pay real estate registration taxes, which in Brussels is another 12.5%. I financed the whole deal with 100% loan at 1.06% interests on a yearly basis, and this for a 20-year period. Furthermore, I need to pay property taxes, which I estimate to be around 170 euros per year. And then I had some small expenses like acquiring the legal template for 30 euros, listing on the ImoWeb platform for 40 euros, and also going to the printing shop for 7 euros to print out all the versions of the contract. So this all together trickles down to a 272.5 euro monthly cost. Then lastly, usually you have notary fees when you do an acquisition. The notary is the person in charge of all the legal stuff involving the acquisition of real estate. Why am I not calculating these costs here? Well, because it was a paired deal. So I bought my apartment, in which I'm recording right now, together with the garage box, which I'm renting out. So I needed to pay these notary fees anyway for the acquisition of the apartment, so I'm not calculating them in this deal. The fact that I did a paired deal is also why I was able to fund the acquisition of the garage with 100% loan, simply because there was enough down payment cash from my side for the apartment, which permitted an extra loanable amount. So, how much money does this garage bring me? Now, with the renter, I settled on a monthly rent of 280 euros, which is slightly above market value in this area, but that's perfectly explainable because the garage is also more equipped than most garages in this area. Furthermore, I was able to settle for a contribution to the property tax on top of the monthly rent payments of 7.3 euros per month. This is not a usual thing to include in your deal. Usually, as an owner, you calculate the property tax upfront and make sure it fits into the monthly rent that you agree on. But unfortunately, I was just, not experienced enough, and I had completely forgotten about the property tax. So I had to make a slightly awkward call with my renter when I had already settled with him on the 280 euros to ask him if it would still be possible to include this contribution to the property tax. Luckily, we were able to settle on them contributing half of this property tax, which comes down to the 7.3 euros per month. Furthermore, usually you can charge costs to your renter. This is electricity, energy, heating. But here in this garage box, there is no heating, there is no water, there is electricity, however, but the amounts or the costs are so low that they're not being paid by the owners of the garages, but by the apartment complex. So I have zero costs to charge to my renter. There's also something called indexation in Belgium, which is a mechanism actually to protect people against the cost of inflation. So yearly salaries in Belgium are increased with 1 or 1.2 or maybe even 2% in January, and that percentage increase is linked to the inflation. If products become more expensive, then wages should go up. This indexation can also be done in rented property. So if you rent an apartment or a garage box, in this case, you have the right to increase your rent every year on a specific date. For salaries, this happens automatically, but then when we're talking about rented properties, this is still something that you as an owner need to actively change. Given the situation with the property tax, I think in the first year I will not push for an indexation, but in the years after, most probably will. Returns. So I think anybody can make the calculation. 287.3 euros in, 272.5 euros out comes down to 14.7 euros of positive cash flow every month. Now, you think, okay, that's nice, it's a positive cash flow, you're doing a good deal, but actually that cash flow is not that good. You'd have to think whenever there would be a cost of about 100 euros, I would need nearly 7 months of paid rent to be able to just cover this 100 euro cost based on the cash inflow of that same investment. Or if you go even further, whenever my renter would leave and I would need to find a new renter, that would take me at least 1 month. So that's 1 month without rent payments. To cover the cost of that 1 month, I would need 1.5 years of rent payments to make up for that 1 month gap. So that's actually not such a favorable position in terms of cash flow today. But as I mentioned, the mechanism of indexation can make a very big change in this. If you would just assume a 1% inflation rate or indexation, usually it's a little bit higher, but let's take a 1% over a 5-year period on this 280 euros rent payment, makes for a difference in cash flow, so positive cash flow increase from 14.7 euros all the way to 29 euros after 5 years of indexation. So that's already a doubling of the cash flow and definitely a way more interesting situation to be in. So cash flow wise, we're in a meh situation today, but it's gonna turn into a very interesting situation over the long run. And then when we look at it, not cash flow wise, but as a long-term investment, this is actually a really good deal. I basically have somebody else who's paying off my mortgage so that in 20 years time from now, I have 100% of the rent payments that are profit and I barely didn't pay anything
to purchase this garage. All right, let's wrap up with some key takeaways and learnings. First of all, you should be aware of all the costs that are involved in your deal, be it property taxes, electricity, heating. You need to be aware of all of them and do your math before you decide on your acquisition price and before you do your listing of the renting price. In both cases, I could have done better. If I would have been more informed, I would have maybe paid a little bit less on the acquisition. And if I would have been more informed, I would have calculated the property taxes into my renting price instead of having to come back to it afterwards, which is not that easy. Furthermore, be aware of the impact of indexation, or in other countries you definitely have a possibility to do rent increases. This means that maybe you do a deal today where you're not netting in so much cash flow from the start, but you have a renter that you can trust, you have your costs covered, and then you have the upside potential in the long run to increase that margin because of indexation, because of rent increases. Then when it comes to discussions or disagreements with your renter, you want to always go for a type of negotiation or a type of discussion where you both try to find a solution that works for both parties. That's the type of wording you should be using, and you want to stay away from any discussion that feels like one against the other, because it's way more difficult to come to a constructive outcome in that way. Then when you list your property on a website, you want to have a full description, you want to have pictures, you even want to have the address there. You just want to make sure that as many questions can be tackled up front, so you don't have to be doing any filtering, you don't have to be answering questions that could have been tackled up front. You also want it to be very complete, because it also makes you come over way more legit. Your application makes more sense if there's more pictures. People will trust you more as well. And then lastly, but maybe the most important thing here, is try to protect as much as possible against downside risk. So this could be, from one end, having a good deposit and a very thorough inventory document, so you have something to fall back on at the end of the contract when there's damages that need to be paid. You need to provide clauses through which you can easily stop the contract in some extreme situations. You should demand insurance from your renter. So I want an insurance that covers them against fire damage, water damage, whatever types of damages that are somewhere related to their responsibility. Because even if I'm in my right to demand these damages to be paid by the renter doesn't necessarily have the funds to pay them. That's why I want to have an insurance company behind them that can still cover these costs instead of them ending up at my side anyway. And then lastly, you want to be able to charge any costs that are related to the usage. You want to be able to charge them to the user, to the renter. So even though today I'm charging zero cost for electricity, water, gas, I did provide a clause that this can be easily reviewed in the event that there would be changes in the actual cost. So if the apartment block would decide, no, we want the garages now to pay for the electricity bill, I can immediately adapt this in the contract and charge it to the renter. If the renter would come up with an electric car that he wants to charge in the garage, then yeah, of course the electricity costs go up. Then as well, I should be able to direct those costs immediately to the renter. I don't want this type of extra costs to be eating away from my margin, and neither do you. So these are the key takeaways. I hope you enjoyed the video. I really put in a lot of effort, both in making the video, but more importantly in setting up the whole project to learn from. Any feedback, positive or negative, is much appreciated in the comments. And definitely, if you like this video, smash that like button, subscribe to my channel for future videos. Very much appreciated, and see you in the next video. Bye.